Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. This is January 7th, 2022. Woo-hoo! As many of you know, I spend some time twice weekly, 9:15 Eastern on Tuesday and Friday, where I take questions from people about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, resolving workplace issues of one form or another, so that in this way, you don't have to figure it out on your own. Because frankly, I know in the US, I can't speak about other parts of the world, but so often in the US, we have this compulsion to figure things out on our own. And as a result, we wind up in situations where we get paralyzed with indecision. It's ridiculous. So, what I try to do is do this show twice weekly to take questions from folks. And between shows, if you have a question for me, you can email it to me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours so that in this way, what I'm able to do is, frankly, be prepared for you. If you put the phrase office hours, I can organize my stuff in this way so that it's easy for me. In addition, during the show, of course, I take questions over chat. So again, if you have a question for me, put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer the questions for you. And if you're on LinkedIn, why don't you just send me a quick note saying hi, so I know that you're here. And again, if you have questions for me, happy to take your question. Now, I've been starting off the show with a toast, a coffee toast, so that in this way, what I'm able to do is, honor those of you who are out there trying. You're plugging along, you're pushing, you're putting in effort because we live in a culture where people try to take it easy and not do their best. So I don't encourage perfection from people. I just like to see effort. And for those of you that are trying in your job search, in your careers, in your work life, by all means, here's a toast to you. I appreciate all that you're trying to do and all that you're accomplishing. Perfection is not something that we set out to accomplish. Actually, we do set out to accomplish it, but we'll never succeed because there's some critic either within our head or elsewhere that's going to tell us we're doing it wrong. So thank you for putting in effort. It makes a difference. Now, today's show is one where it seems like all the questions I received, and I could be wrong about this, but I kind of took a quick skim at it this morning. And it kind of looked like my questions were all about job search, not about managing, leading, dealing with workplace issues, hiring staff, all the other stuff. But it's the way it turned out this week. And one thing I'll add in at the top of the show is someone posted something about a new New York City law requiring salary ranges in job ads. Personally, I think that's fabulous. And just because the range is there, I'm going to pick numbers at random, 100 to 120. So they make the offer 110. Hey, how come you didn't give me 120? Just to be clear, just because there's a range doesn't mean that you're qualified for the top number. And trust me, employers are going to be very happy to say, you didn't quite grade out to the top of the scale by comparison to people within our existing organization. So we made an offer that we thought was fair based upon, and they're going to give you this load of crap. I'm going to encourage you, follow up with a follow-up question. Here's the question you're going to start asking. You're going to start asking, really, in what way was I different than your existing people? And you're going to listen for a while. And then you're going to say, some other firms think differently. So because HR is going to do this most of the time to try and talk you down. And you're going to say, some other firms have graded me out at a higher level than apparently you're prepared to do. So I encourage you to reconsider your thinking about this because it might be a little out of touch with what the market is. And then shut up. Well, what other firms? Doesn't matter. Other firms are grading me to a higher level than financially than apparently what you are. So reconsider and let's talk after you talk to the hiring manager. And what's that's going to do is, and you can't sound angry when you say this, you just have to put it in a certain casual way. Oh, crap. It's so weird. Lately, StreamYard has been going to mute as I've been talking. It's bizarre. The cursor is away from the button. So I'm just going to back up for a second and say um, the New York City law will give you an opportunity to see the salary range for position advertised. And firms are still going to try and negotiate you off the top of the range and put you in a position where you're going to um, have to push them up financially. And they're going to say, let's say the salary was 100 to 120. Then there's going to be the moment where they say, well, the offer's at 110. How'd you come to 110? You weren't as good as the 120 in our estimation. And we decided to offer 110 because we think we'd like to bring you on board. How was I not up to estimation? Now, normally it's going to be HR who's going to try and talk you down, not the hiring manager. HR is going to try and get a little bit of a bargain. And then you're going to flip it to them after you listen to what they tell you, which is going to be a bunch of crap because they really don't know. And then you're going to turn around and say, a couple of other firms seem to disagree with you about my value. Like two other firms, three other firms, whatever number you want to use, kind of see me at that price point. So I'd encourage you to speak with the hiring manager and reconsider the number that you're talking about. If we came up with that number, would you accept? I still have some questions that I'll speak with the hiring manager about, but there's no point in doing that if we don't have an agreement on the price. So recognize just because they advertise the price doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get it. I love transparency, but there's still a game employers are going to pay to try and take you off the top number. So, first question for today: how important is it to have an updated LinkedIn profile that has all your resume details? Now, I'll simply say LinkedIn is a way that recruiters go hunting for people. And thus, you want to have people contacting you instead of you always hunting them. And that's whether you're looking for a job or not. Remember, the person who gets ahead isn't always the smartest or work the hardest, although those are great qualities to have. People get ahead by being alert to opportunity. Sometimes those are internal to the organization. More often than not, they're external. And thus, you want recruiters reaching out to you instead of you always being in the position of finding the job. So keep it up to date. When something new happens, add to it. If you're not looking for a job, go to your privacy settings and turn off notifications to people that you're connected with about those changes, and then turn it back on after you've made the changes. But it makes so much sense to keep your LinkedIn profile up to date so that this way you hear about opportunities that could fit for you. And if they don't make sense, don't be rude to the recruiter or the corporate or third party who contacts you. They have long memories, and you don't want them thinking about you in a negative way because you never know when it's going to come back and bite you. Okay, the recruiter forwarded my application to the hiring manager. Is that a good sign? Well, it was a good sign that you had the right keywords in there, and it was good enough that she or he wanted it reviewed by someone else to make the decision to invite you in. You are not summarily rejected. They are taking it one extra level, and it doesn't mean anything. The hiring manager can take a look at the resume and say, I don't know what you saw here. They're too junior for me, or they're too senior, or whatever the excuse is going to be, or the explanation is going to be. It doesn't mean anything except you got past the screener, and and the hiring manager is going to look at it and then turn around and say, screen it or don't screen them or don't screen them. That's all it means. What can you do about a former employer that keeps sabotaging your job search? Well, I don't know how they're sabotaging your search. I just have to take it at face value. What you're saying is they are sabotaging your search. And thus, how has this happened? Are you using them as a reference? Well, you're pretty dumb if you've done this more than once. There's a couple of things you can do. Number one is stop giving them as a reference. Give a peer, give a former manager as a reference. Don't give this person as a reference. It's not like they're calling up companies and saying, hey, I heard you're interviewing so and so. Don't talk to them. Don't hire them. Ooh, terrible person. They're being contacted for a reason, and it probably involves you. Stop giving them as a reference. If someone wants a reference at that firm, you can simply say, my manager left. I'm not sure how to reach them. I can give you so-and-so who I worked with. They know my work. And thus get around it that way. Next question. Should I ask ask about another job or position that just got posted after I didn't get an offer at the last round of the interview? So if I'm understanding this correctly, you got to a final, you weren't chosen, and you saw a posting on their corporate website, on the web, wherever, about another job. So the first question is, are you qualified to do that job based upon the specifications? If you are, let's keep going forward. Is it with the same recruiter? Is it with the same group? If it's the same group, they're probably not going to be interested in you, but you can say to the recruiter, either the corporate recruiter or the third party recruiter who introduced you, you can say something along the lines of, hey, I saw another position opened up in that group. Do you think they'd be interested in talking with me? It's with a different manager. The feedback overall was good, or I'm not so sure, at which point you have your answer. But ask the question. If it's in a different group, you can always say, are you the recruiter who's handling this position? They say, yes, great. I saw another job opened up. Could you submit me for it? If they say no, could you introduce me to that recruiter so that in this way, I can deal with, I can be considered for that role now that I'm not being considered for this one. That's the smoothest way to handle it. Okay. What is a good amount of time to send a follow-up email for an interview? Okay. So I'm going to work with the assumption that you've submitted your resume to a firm and you're following up on the resume to see if you can get an interview. That's the way I'm going to interpret the wording here because it's kind of messy. So the answer is, if you sent it at 4:00 on Friday, I would wait until midday on Monday. If you sent it on Monday, I'd do it like Tuesday afternoon. Notice, I'm giving people a certain amount of time to find it on their own. And this way, what you're able to do is to follow up saying, hey, look, I uploaded a resume to the system, or I forwarded a resume to you, haven't heard yet. I just want to make sure you received it. I'm sure you received it if it's in the ATS. Don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. Um, they can say, oh, no, I've been busy with a lot of things. I don't want to be a nuisance, but when do you think you might be able to take a look at it and circle back if you're interested? This way, I know if you haven't, I'm not under consideration. Don't make them call you unnecessarily because they're busy. They have a lot more to do than just respond to you. And folks, I'll just say if you have a question about job search, hiring, management, leadership, any sort of a question related to the workplace, put it into chat. I'd be happy to answer your questions. So I take questions again about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, or workplace scenarios that you'd like some advice about. And the advice is free. It's worth more than that, but it's always your choice as to whether you follow it. So the next question is it allowed, I hate this word, that an employer does not want to disclose about the job details, like the hours, salary, benefits, and keep asking to see the resume first? They can do whatever they want, just like you don't have to send a resume. So is it allowed? Of course it is. And I know when I did recruiting, it became very frustrating for me when people said, hey, tell me about that job for such and such. And then I'd talk about it for a while and they said, tell me about you. And they were completely unqualified. My favorite was the person who I discovered was a Purdue chicken plucker who was asking about a Java development role. And they hadn't even taken a course, let alone had the word coffee on their resume, Java. So I'll just simply say, yeah, just tell me, when they say, can I see your resume? Sure. And I'll circle back to you after I've had a chance to review it if we're interested. And comply. What's the big deal? Now, I know from your standpoint, it seems like a waste of time, but they're getting lots of these calls from people, and you somehow got through. Good for you. And what you're not focusing on selling yourself. Sell yourself to them and demonstrate how your background fits the role. And you can say, I can forward a resume to you, of course, but this is what I do. Do you see that as being a fit for what you're looking for? Yeah, great. I'll send over a resume as we're talking now, so that in this way, perhaps they'll receive it and do the interview right then and there. So yes, without a doubt, it is allowed. What is a software engineering recruiter trying to figure out when they ask a candidate why they're looking for a change when the candidate has been with their previous company only for a year or 18 months? So that latter part is unnecessary. The fact that you were there for a year or 18 months doesn't matter in this conversation. It's really they want to find out why you're looking for something else. Because if you have an immature answer, it puts them on guard. If you have a reasonable answer, then they go on to the next question. I know that's what I did when I did recruiting. Pretty early on, I would talk to someone, I had their resume. I would call them on the phone because this is the pre-Zoom days, pre-pandemic days. I would say, hi, my name is Jeff Altman. I'm a recruiter. I'm trying to fill a position with a client. I've received your resume. Do you have a few minutes to speak? Yes, great. So your background looks interesting. Maybe I could just start by asking, why are you trying to make a change now? What's not working for you that's prompting you to look at other things? And it's an easy question for people to answer, and that gets them talking and comfortable, and I'm learning something about them. So yes, uh, all they're trying to do is to find out why you want to make a change. You don't want to give answers like, I hate my boss, I'm making too little money. You want to focus on the next situation and speak in positive terms about what you're looking for. How do you properly ask about a position in a phone call when you're searching for a job? Boy, I think the simplest way is I saw a position advertised, or Jeff the recruiter, or Jeff the employee of your firm told me about a job that was available in your organization. Could you give me a brief synopsis of the position and what you're looking for? Now, they may say, I want to see a resume first. Notice this is the other side of that earlier question I had, uh, where I'm telling you how to make the request. But like I said, they may ask to see a copy of the resume. They may say, I'm talking with a few people now, the meeting right behind that conversation. Is it possible that you could forward a resume to me? Sure, I can do that. Great. Um, and that's how you make the ask, but understand they don't have to answer the question right then and there. Last question so far. Let me take another quick look at my dashboard. No one's asking questions today. I see a couple of you lurking. So the last question for today, as of now, is, let me get back over. Good. I just received an offer on the condition that the client accept my profile without any interview, not a test, not a background check. How serious is this? And should I provide what they ask for, documents on my end? So I don't know what documents they're asking for. Um, it could be, well, again, they could be looking for immigration documents that verify your legal right to work in the U.S. That's certainly possible, but I can't answer the question about documents. I would generally provide it to them so that in this way, if their client wants to move, they can act quickly without any delay. So why are they doing this? This is called a contingent offer. It's not real unless their client says yes. You don't have an official offer. What they're trying to do is to lock up the price and lock up the fact that you are going to join them if their client says yes. But you do not have an offer. I'm sure this is done orally, and if it was put into writing, it would say something along the lines of, this is contingent upon, so that in this way, uh, they have an out if their client doesn't hire you. So keep looking. Do not believe that you have an offer, because you don't. You only have an offer once their client says yes, based upon their submission. And remember, it's not just about the value of it's not just about your capabilities at work. That's a factor here. It's based upon the price this consulting firm is going to charge for you to their client. If you shoot too high, the client can say, I have less expensive people here. So thanks, but no thanks. So no offer yet. Keep looking. It isn't real yet. It could become real. Lord knows there were many contingent offers that turned into full-time employment when I did search, but many didn't. So keep plugging. And I'm not seeing any questions here, so I'll just simply say, for those of you who've been lurking, thank you for watching. If you have a question for me in the future, you can always email it to me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours. This way I know what it's about. Also, um, I'll be on Tuesday at 9:15 Eastern. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's a ton there in the blog, plus there's information about my courses. Also there, you can schedule time for coaching with me or a free discovery call. There's just a lot of great information available through my site. You can also follow me at jobsearchtv.com on YouTube, and my podcast, No BS Job Search Advice Radio, which is #1 in Apple Podcasts for job search. No show has as many episodes as mine. I've been on air for 11 years plus, and the week after next, we're hitting episode 2300. More than Joe Rogan. Yeah. Lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Have a terrific day. And most importantly, be great. Take care.